Welcome. This is episode 6 of the Equity East Midlands podcast. This is the 6th episode of 16. In this episode, we're going to talk about asking the agents questions. So join us in reflecting on the importance of equity through our lens of lived experience. Start with Ken. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Ken. I'm a professional actor for about 8 years, but about 2 years ago, I took the plunge to decide to try and be an actor full time. And it's been the hardest thing ever, but it's also made me the happiest person ever.
Mel.
Hi, I'm Mel, and this is my 13th year of voice acting full-time here from my studio at the bottom of the garden in Leicester.
Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim Gillespie. I'm a theatre director and applied theatre practitioner. And I'm chair of the branch. So welcome.
Thank you. And I'm Karen. I'm the host for this podcast. I'm an equity member and resident of the East Midlands and try and support the branch where I can. September's meeting. Tell me, how did it go? What happened? What was it all about?
Well,
it was great.
No, it was good, and it continued our kind of campaign in for artist development in terms of the way we're kind of structuring the program. We'll talk about that later, but it kind of was a stage in that kind of information gathering and information giving to our members. But it was really lively. We had a lot of people there. There was a lot of good questions came up, and we had a sense, I think, going away. And what struck me a bit actually, there was that some of the questions. There was a kind of people starting out atmosphere about it, which I think is good because it elicited responses from the agents and the bookers that were really going over a process, for them, and really going back to basics to a certain extent. So I think in that context, it worked really well for the people in the room.
So it took place at Curve in Leicester.
Yeah.
We had about 18 people in the room. We had about 10, 12 people online, as well as one of the speakers. You had a panel of 3. I was really excited. I was there on the Zoom, so don't have to be in Leicester. You can join the Zoom. You had Frank Sims, who's a senior agent at Ashrow Talent Management, was covering theatre and screen. Michael Day, who's the CEO of Excel Entertainment, who was covering the variety and live entertainment. And then Cheryl Duncan, who's voiceover agent at Fitzrovia Talent. And you were chairing, Kim. So yeah. How did it go? What else do you want to share on this podcast?
Well, the whole idea was to help creatives grow their career. And we want equity meetings to be useful to creatives. We want you to be there because it's a useful place for you to be to help your career develop. And the range of questionnaires we had was wonderful because we had people in there who'd just had a taste of the big stage kind of thing. So they'd maybe done a community production at Curve, and that had just inspired them to try and be a professional actor. And then we had questions from people who'd been making theatre all over the country for decades at a really, really high level. And then people who'd been doing voice work at a high level, people who'd been in mainstream soap operas were in the room. So it was a fantastic range of questionnaires and attendees.
Yeah. What was really funny, you talk about there being lots of questions, Ken, is that when we prepare for these things, you never truly know, do you? A, who's going to turn up, and B, what questions are going to be. You've invited these agents to come along and they've given up their time, but guys, is anyone actually going to ask a question to the point where Ken, you were so nervous you'd written like a whole bowl of questions that if people hadn't thought of their own question, they could pick a question out of the piece of paper out of the bowl. Well, absolutely, that was not needed at all.
No,
it was not needed.
Nobody needed my bowl of questions,
which was brilliant. Sorry, Ken, not brilliant that we didn't use your questions, your pre-prepared questions, but people were there with genuine a genuine interest in getting what they could out of these 3 individuals in front of them, and that was really great to see, because as Kim started, what we want to people to feel is that they're getting the most out of their membership, or if people haven't joined, because we do invite people to come along as well and see what you can experience, that, you know, it's worthwhile coming along to your branch meetings.
Yeah, indeed. And actually, in terms of chairing it was kind of made easy to a certain extent, because people were polite, and you know, I mean, it was kind of, but also there was a sense of very sensible questions coming forward, you know, and themes and ideas that led us through a process, really, I think. So actually, I think, although the kind of, there was a difference maybe between the variety booker and the voice agent and the kind of theatre agent, there was a lot of commonality, wasn't there, about how you would approach them, which is where I think we kind of need to kind of concentrate. Well, I mean, what the main things they talked about in terms of approach to an agent was authenticity, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the key questions were, obviously, we knew potentially they would be, is, you know, what is it that I need to have, or preparedness? What is it that I need to have available to me to send to an agent for them to consider me? How do I stand out over and above the crowd? And then how do they pick? How do agents pick? And interestingly, although they came from three different areas of work, there absolutely was this commonality of, and authenticity kept coming up, is that being yourself. I think all of them said that actually, regardless of, yes, you have to have your professional reel in whatever that is, whether it's a voice reel or a show reel. Yes, you need to present yourself professionally, but actually there is something about, who are you? They want to know who you are as an individual and a personality, and actually that's what may get you on their books.
And a passion for the work. I mean, I think in a way that's what Michael brought up at the end. It's like, well, you know, anyone that's got a passion for the work and enjoy what they do, that kind of links with the authenticity bit.
Yeah, the questions in the room centered around really the two sort of major areas of interest for an agent. Is one, so an agent is looking for compelling talent to take in for representation, so they're interested in seeing talent for those reasons, and the talent themselves, the actors and performers and people in the room, were interested in being taken on for representation. But then the agents have that extra task then of, once they've got the talent in their shop window, how to market that talent out. And authenticity was important on both sides of the agent's work, both in finding new talent and then in marketing that talent. Authenticity was important. Being yourself may get you as little as one job a year, but trying to be somebody else is going to get you no work at all.
One thing that did come out differently, you just mentioned developmental stuff there, Ken, that was very interesting and really encouraging, that Cheryl was talking about, is that Fitzrovia talent, and I don't think you hear this very often, are actually looking at developmental opportunities as well. So she talked about offering representation for someone who perhaps doesn't even have a voice reel yet, and that as Fitzrovia has access to Fitzrovia Post as a set of studios, that they would even work with them for free to do a reel for them, because they recognise that collaboration. It's a two-way process between you and your agent. So that was really encouraging, especially for new people in looking to do voice work, that she was offering something like that. I mean, I can't imagine there's going to be a significant number of those places available, and indeed if they haven't gone already. But that was pretty unique.
Pretty amazing. I mean, imagine if your agent actively sought to develop you. Imagine, here's a challenge to agents listening. Imagine if you had a budget for some of your actors to use to source training courses, or you went 50-50 on a training program between
actually, you know, if you run a co-op agency like I used to, that's exactly what you would do. So I would encourage any people out there to start a co-op. You know,
because that's the thing, isn't it? There are agents who it's their job to be connecting to film scripts and finding people who are looking to cast into shows and film. But then there's the co-op agency. So just briefly tell us about co-op versus agency.
Well, I mean, the thing about the co-op organisation, I was a member of for 12 years, and in that time, you're not only promoting yourself, you are the promoter. So you are actually training yourself as an agent, and you're sat in the room for 1 week. In our case, 1 week every month. You take a turn to be in the chair. So you're gaining the negotiation skills, as well as kind of how to promote, your kind of members and yourself when it kind of comes up. And you decide who comes into the co-op, who comes into the agency, because we have monthly meetings where you do that. There's a financial outlay at the beginning, because it's good to have an office, and equipment to be able to do that. What did come up though at Cider Point was the tiers, which I don't want to, this is not a negative thing necessarily. It just takes hard work to work your way through. But Frank did have something to say about where agents sit with casters and promoters in terms of a tiering process. But the point being, he said, you need to kind of join an agent and find out where they sit in that process.
So we have the constraint of time. So just to finish off, there was something that all of them said about how much actual time that they have and what the meaning of time being finite means to them in terms of show reels. So just what was that?
Yeah, this is really important. We're products. We've got to understand that agents are looking to buy us. Agents have very, very limited time, as we all do, and they need you to make an impression quickly. Making a strong choice in your self-tape is important, because even if it's not the right choice for you to get a role, even if you're not making the right choices for them to represent you, you'll still be memorable because of your bold performance choices. So make bold performance choices.
That's a really good.
Yeah.
So,
and similarly for voice, Karen, very quickly, 3 to 5 seconds. So make sure that your most bold choice, or something that makes you different perhaps, is at the beginning of your voice reel, for them to continue to listen. Because if it's the same as everyone else in the first 3 to 5 seconds, they'll click on.
Yeah, and even as a liberal, kind of agent in a cooperative, being very sympathetic, we didn't look at stuff for very much longer than 10 seconds or so. If it didn't grab us with all that authenticity and that strong choice, then we didn't look at it.
Well, this has been episode 6. The next meeting, if you're listening to this in real time, we're recording these sort of in September time. The next meeting is October the 15th. It's actually the 3rd Wednesday of the month, not the usual 2nd. And Sian Jones, the head of comms and policy from Equity, is going to be the speaker. So I think we've got some treats coming up to find out what is happening for the branch in the coming months. That's going to be episode 7. So without giving any spoilers, you're either going to have to wait for episode 7 or maybe see if it's in the player right now. Thank you all very much for listening. Thank you all.